Hi, everyone. I wanted to welcome Anna Palm with us again today. And we're going to be talking about fascia, and we're going to be talking about how you can unwind your body to basically reverse your aging process with fascia. So take it away, Anna.
Awesome. So, like we were just talking about before we started recording, everybody believes that their body's aging. Everybody believes that they're, well, I should say, getting older. So what we know as children that old means your body is decrepit, things don't move the same, and so we just go through our life believing that, accepting it, would create emotional blocks because that's a belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So just because we're told that, which is trying to hide and cover up a lot of our own power, a lot of our own healing abilities that we have. Fascia is here to support us. It's here to work for us. So it does what we tell it to. So it's on those neural loops in our head. So if aging is what we believe, then fascia thinks that it needs to age. It thinks that it needs to um, go inward. So what I mean by that is fascia follows the Fibonacci sequence. And so that is the way that it works. When aging is a belief system for us, everything that dies, anything that dies and is taken back into the earth goes into itself. It all follows the same sequence, going through. I keep my brain thinking of the word decompression, but what am I trying to say? Decomposure.
Oh, yeah.
Decomposing is going back into the earth. So everything does that. Well, our bodies are doing the same thing if we believe that we're aging, and that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I choose not to believe that anymore, but it wasn't as simple as getting to that point. You know, I had to get through a bunch of different things before I got to this realization. So a lot of, in these videos, a lot of what I'm talking about, I'm going to use myself for certain things because that a lot of this stuff's hard to talk about. A lot of this stuff isn't easy. So it kind of makes it easier when I use myself as an example.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about how I learned about fascia at this point.
Okay.
I at 12 years old, I was hanging onto the side of a boat and a church retreat, and somebody a lot bigger than me fell on top of me, and my legs went underneath the boat. I had a life jacket on, so my back hyperextended backwards. I remember something happening to my right leg at that point where I couldn't walk on it right. My mom said for a couple of days I just wasn't walking right. Went to the doctor. They said it was just muscles. That age, you know, I was kind of into boys or wanting to go to the football game. So I was trying to act like nothing was wrong so I could still keep doing what I wanted to do. And these are things I remember about that time. So whatever, I got through that initial pain or damage or trauma, whatever happened at that point, and I just kept going, doing some basketball, whatever other things I did. And then I had my kids, and I started having really bad back pain. Things were, you know, between me and my husband at that point, that we were into, things were just hard. And so to me, I had the belief system at that point of I never have enough money. I never, which also, that was something that my dad always said when I was a child, but now I've realized created a belief system.
Oh, yeah.
So at that point, I was feeling all of that, not really understanding, but my back was getting a lot worse, a lot worse. I became a medical assistant, and so I was working with doctors. My back pain was getting a lot worse, and then there became the opioids. Then I started taking lots of pain medication so I could keep working. Didn't know how bad I was running myself in the ground because the belief system that I had to work like that and I had to work my body into the ground. That was a belief system. So at that point, I didn't realize it. I was just working. Had back surgery where they did an L4, L5 fusion. And at this point, I'm still pretty sure all of this came from that first injury when I was 12 years old. It just never got really looked at right. So I had the first surgery, and then I just keep on working as medical assistant, taking pain meds, working, being a mom, pushing myself. That was like 2006 when I had the surgery. A lot of stuff happened in between then, a lot of pain meds. So then I moved to Davenport and I started working at the clinic, and another injury happened. Same kind of thing. So pain meds got stronger, ended up having a second back surgery. When I came out of that back surgery in 2017, they said there was nothing they could do, that my body had grown around the metal and that this is just how it was going to be. Well, at this point, I could barely stand up straight. I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand up without leaning on anything, the wall, the counter, a walker, something. I couldn't stand up by myself. And I had a limp with my right leg that was just horrible. Every step I took was painful, just so much pain.
Yep.
So at this point, I lost my job, which was my identity, and I didn't know who I was. So I had to go through a process of figuring out that. And in that, I knew that pain meds weren't going to be a part of the rest of my life, and had to figure out how to get away from that by myself. And then was trying to figure out how I was going to deal with the pain for the rest of my life.
Well, and I think that we attract, if there's something going on within us, we attract some kind of lesson, and the lesson also accumulates in the body. And if we don't realize, like, that's one of the things that we're not told anymore, is that, the body is a reflection of some sort of emotion or trauma or whatever. And so that's what it all stemmed from. And you just kept getting the lesson because you hadn't figured out what the trauma was that you were supposed to heal. Yeah.
Exactly. And so once I started understanding that part of it, and then I started understanding the belief system. So for my back, it was never have enough money, always lack, not worthy, all those root chakra, sacral chakra,
Survival,
feelings, emotions, right. And then I had created the need for the more pain pills because that made me be able to be on autopilot, and that made me be able to keep functioning and keep being in society and keep running the rat race and working and doing what I thought I was supposed to. And I understand on different levels how, at some point, now I've accepted that obviously the pain meds did help me on different levels, but at the same time, what they did do to me. But realizing that the limp I had created just made everything so much worse in my body, everything off balance, everything. But I needed people to see, I needed people to physically see that even though I was working so hard, I was being the best mom, the best wife that I knew how to be. That was the belief system.
Yeah.
I needed people to see that, how bad I hurt, how much I was in pain. So I talked about it constantly. Every other word was, oh. So anyways, I realized that I had to get out of that, and I was the only one that could change it. I was the only one that could do anything about it. And so I just started asking, be shown these emotional things. I really started understanding how every physical ailment, everything, aging, everything has a belief system. Everything is attached to a belief system. Everything is attached to some type of trauma. the belief system from that trauma on the emotional level. And so I really started looking into that, and I started understanding, and I started trying to figure out how to heal. And so then I came across the people who do the block therapy, and then the Alicia Celeste, the two that I've learned so much from about fascia. And I was able to start linking all these things together. So where I came from was just the pain aspect when I came into the fascia.
So once you, like, let's say you were going to work on your hip or your leg, where was the trigger release? And then do you know what the emotional problem was? Like,
so from what I've experienced a little bit, sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, because when I went at this, I just wanted pain relief. I just wanted to learn these fascia release techniques from these people. I wanted them to show me exactly what to do, exactly how to release that fascia. And I didn't want to look at the emotional side of it.
Right.
So I started out kind of just doing that and not being able to get into the fascia, not really understanding what was going on until I started bringing in the emotional things. So then when I understood that about my back, where the emotional stuff was coming from, to work on that from the back part of your legs, because a lot of the pelvic instability comes from stuff in the front shortening and the stuff in the back lengthening. And so everything about fascia has to do with being off balance, your body, because you use it more so because of the limp, I was leaning this way to my right because that's the limp. So everything on this side was lengthened, everything on this side was shortened. So when I started doing it, I just wanted to focus on my back, but I didn't realize that I needed to focus on my whole body. So that one video that we have, that TED link or that TED talk, we can link to this to show people that it's like a fascia body too. I think that helps.
Yeah, and that'll show people how it gets bound up. I think there's so many people that walk around in pain every day, and they feel older because their fascia is bound up. So that's how it anti-ages you, if you just loosen your body back up again, so you can move better, you can look better, everything. So tell me a little bit about, I know we talked about how it will help with wrinkles, and maybe even weight loss. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. So let me think. I gotta go back and figure out. So let me say this. Scar tissue is fascia. So anytime you have an injury, anytime anything happens, that attaches to the closest thing it is, so it can protect your body, because it's trying to protect you always. So when that happens, that throws off your balance a little bit, or throws off the way you walk, or the way you move your arm, or whatever. So if you have the belief system of aging or overweight or wrinkles, fascia, I'll use myself as an example. My stomach and my inside of my legs are like two places that I can't stand. So first of all, there's an emotional thing attached to that, because why does it bother me? Why do I not like to look at it? I don't touch the inside of my legs or my stomach, because I don't care for them. I try to pretend like they're not there. So all these things that we try not to see in ourselves are trying to go away, trying to deteriorate, because we're acting like they're not there. So if I stand in front of the mirror, and this is kind of wrinkles and fat in the same, and my legs, from where the fascia has attached to the bone, it starts pulling your body inward. So right there on the skin of my legs, it's kind of wrinkly and it's kind of flabby. And that is because the fascia from my hips, it should be out more because our bodies should be open when they're starting to go in. So because of where the fascia is attached, it makes the skin create wrinkles, or it makes fat hang in a different way. So that's my legs, and that's kind of like the wrinkles, which can be on your face, the same thing, because you do fascia release on your face. If you have belief systems of that, then there's certain places that fascia has attached that needs to be released so the wrinkles can open back up, your skin can open back up.
Right.
When fascia is attached, it can, I have it written down right here. Scar tissue will adhere to bone with the force of up to 2,000 pounds per square inch. So if you think about how intense that is, how strong that is, what our bodies can do, trying to protect us, following all of our belief systems, you know, so it's really how much we create our reality.
Right.
So my stomach, that's been one of my biggest things of overweight. My stomach, I hate the way it looks. Every time I look in the mirror, I'm looking at my stomach, just blah. And so I know what I've created. I understand the emotional part of it. I've dealt with a lot of that. I've been working on it for a long time. But once you understand that and you start working on the fascia physical side of things, because to me, you look at things, realize the emotional side of stuff, start working on that, and then you have to release it out of your physical body. So with my stomach, the way that fascia starts attaching is to your pelvic area, to your other organs. And so that the block therapy, there's some really good videos on that about losing weight. There's some really amazing stories of people that have lost so much weight by just laying on the wooden block or on their belly button area while they watch TV, while they watch movies, and diaphragmatically breathing, because your diaphragm is connected to muscles that are in your neck, in your shoulders, all the way down, and connected to muscles that come from your pelvic area. Which this brings in breath to this whole thing, because when you start working with fascia, you have to be able to know how important your breath is.
Right.
Because so many people don't breathe.
Looking into that a lot, the breath. Really good.
Yeah. And that's what fascia is. It's when you don't take the way, you don't breathe correctly, you don't take the deep breath where you're diaphragmatically breathing and then blowing out all that extra air. If you're using your accessory muscles up here to breathe, which brings you into the moment, into the now. And that's something that we don't get taught or know how to do either.
Right.
But all of this forms like a type of yoga, type of meditation. That's what it's done for me. At the same time, trying to figure out how to get out of pain.
Right.
How to function. Just activities of daily living in life. I couldn't even sit up literally for more than 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah. So it's made a massive difference in your life.
Right.
So this is fun and exciting. Now I want to get a fascia release book. So what else would you want to say as far as like anti-aging goes? What would you recommend for the face? Let's just do the face. So like, is the gua sha something that actually releases fascia in the face? Looked at that at all? That little stone?
Oh, yeah.
So does that work with fascia? You think?
Yep, it does. Anything. That's the whole thing about how I was bringing. So it's proprioception, where we touch our bodies in certain areas and the nerves and the intuitive things. So how I was saying, like, because I don't like my stomach, I don't touch it. I don't want it to be touched.
Right. So you're not fixing it because
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So now that I'm going into that and all the emotional stuff and the physical things, because not only is it making my body kind of do this because I don't want to
Right.
pay attention to my stomach, now I'm trying to open up on the physical level, the emotional level, the spiritual level, and I can tell the difference. But just saying that about what you're talking about your face, we don't think about that either. So just any type of dry brushing is actually does for the fascia. So superficial fascia is where the lymph lives, which we're going to talk about that in at the not the next video, but the next one. So we'll be able to explain that a lot more. But yeah,
Yeah.
just the what did you call it? I didn't know the name of
So it's called a gua sha. So like
Fascia.
GUASHUA, I think again is how it's,
Right.
but yeah.
So
And
to
it's
me, that
like a little heart.
yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying. So to me, that's using whatever the properties are of the crystal energy
Mm-hmm.
and with your fascia. So that's completely fascia release. What I do, just talking about wrinkles for my face, I have the block or a block that I use. And so I will lay down on the floor when I'm doing all my other fascia release and literally lay my head on it and just roll my head around all these areas. And I just I can feel it. I mean, once you start doing this and you understand, there's a feeling to it.
Yeah.
So
So it
any
just,
massage, go ahead.
right. So it just kind of releases the binding almost. Yeah.
So a lot of people are doing it, and they don't really. I don't know that they realize it. When I asked you earlier if you had heard of that Rolfing, so I
Right.
heard of that before I decided to get off the pain meds, and when I was in that kind of space, and to me it was just deep tissue massage. I didn't really. That's all I really knew about it. But that has a lot to do with fascia than I think people realize or that I understood. So yeah, there's a lot more that we do with it that it's just not talked about that we just don't understand. It's been I've done so much research on the scientific medical level just because that's where I come from.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that whenever they dissect bodies after they die, the fascia is dead, and so they can't study it. And so that's always been that really made sense to me of why it was just like thrown away. You know, nobody really understood what it was. It's not in the medical books. It's not part of what Western medical doctors are taught because they're not taught about the energy system, and
No.
that's the energy system. So the way I see it, when they're dissecting a body, the energy system is just thrown away because it's not there anymore. So they can't really study it.
Right. I'm trying to think what that's called. The meridians.
Mm-hmm.
Is that so? The
Yeah,
meridians are tied in with the fascia because the
a
fascia is
lot.
the electrical. So the fascia would be like the wiring.
Right, right. And nerves don't move. You know, they just send signals. Fascia is
Right.
what carries the signals. Right. So that's where
Right.
everything's happening. And because our bodies get so bound up, so wound up, the fascia can't, the signals can't go through right. So they're when they run into blocks, emotional blocks, physical blocks, they don't know where to go, and that
Yeah.
causes pain. But any type of pain is really trying to get you to pay attention to something deeper. So it all works in a system. It all goes in a circle because each thing affects the next, and then it's all the same thing.
So have you ever met anyone, because I know that you've probably talked to people who deal with fascia. Have you ever met anyone that has MS that has tried to do fascia work to kind of release? Because I know it's the myelin, you know, thinning causes the MS, but do you think that that could also be benefited by fascia work? Yeah,
Yeah, because if you go deeper, it has to do with the autoimmune.
right.
And that brings in the belief system. So if you bring in the belief system and you realize where that's coming from, and you start healing that, then you can release the fascia that's creating that, and then that'll all start to heal itself.
Really?
There's some really fascinating stories with the block therapy.
Uh-huh.
I think she has a lot more personal, like people who have come on and told they're really bad or hard diseases or traumas, and they kind of follow them through certain things using the fascia release. So it's so awesome.
Yeah.
So,
It just seems like if you can unbind your body and you can deal with your emotions, then you wouldn't really age that much.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's pretty
And like
exciting.
it is, and it's so amazing because where I am right now in my life, I am on disability. I never thought I would say that. And the way that the last doctor's appointments I had was just like, this is just it. Sorry, we can't do anything. And I just wasn't going to accept that. So for a while, I mean, I felt stuck. I felt like nobody cared. Nobody wanted to help me. So I had to
Right,
figure out how to do it for myself. But this has literally turned into a, like I said earlier, yoga, a meditation. I do it multiple times a day. And even my family can tell if I get slack and I get too much doing going on and not enough being, and I don't have my time to do my stuff, that limp can come back really fast. Not
mm-hmm.
like it's just, I know I'm working on it and my kids and my husband can see the difference, but it's literally an everyday workout, meditation, yoga, all combined.
Right,
That's just helped me be able to stand up for longer and wash dishes instead of leaning on the counter with my elbows trying to wash dishes. Just
right.
little things in my life. I didn't drive for, let me say this first. I had my driver's license when I was 14 years old. I had my permit for like 7 days. That was how the law worked back then. So I have driven across the United States by myself multiple times. When all this happened and got really bad, my leg was so bad, it would go numb so fast that it would make me fall and trip that I quit driving. I had the belief system for 2.5 years that I couldn't drive. I didn't drive. I wouldn't. And so all of this has gotten me back to the point where I can drive around Davenport. I can drive. I haven't gone very far, but a lot of things have changed. A
Yeah,
lot in a short period of time.
that's wonderful. I'm glad you're feeling better. I mean, it's obviously it was kind of like being paralyzed to it in a way. And now at least, even though you have to work on it quite a bit every day, at least you're mobile. You
Right.
can move around your house, you can make food, you can function. It's such a huge difference. And just think like how many people are in that position. There's so many
Right.
that, yeah, it would really change a lot for people. And I'm excited that this is kind of a newer thing that, people are learning about. So there's probably a lot of research that can continue to go
Mm-hmm.
on about it. So, just let's wrap it up and just kind of tell us what we're going to talk about next time, what you're interested in talking about next time so people know what to look forward to.
The two that we have talked about already, which may turn into more, like we said.
Yeah.
The next one we had just talking about how Fascia is intuitive and how, for me, how that's happened and how I've learned to listen to my body and what my body's telling me, which also has to do with the emotional stuff, but just how all of that really goes together. And
Mm-hmm.
then the next one was talking about how detoxing and lymph has to do with fascia.
Yeah. Yeah. Lymph is huge because it doesn't have a pump. So,
Right,
and that's
right,
something that inflammation is like the number one killer, probably. So,
right.
detoxing and just figuring out how to get all those chemicals that we are bombarded with every day out of our body. is huge.
Yep.
So yeah.
Right. When I realized, just talking about that a little bit, just realizing everything is a toxin. We're intaking it. We have to learn how to balance it. And there's
Yeah.
different ways, but also has a lot to do with that. So it's exciting.
Yeah. Well, and lymph that stagnates becomes diseased, so
Yep.
it's such a big thing to learn how to get it out of us until we can have a better environment for ourselves. Yeah.
And it is simple. It's just something we're not taught.
Right. Well, the
Yep.
medical community is definitely benefiting from us not knowing.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that sounds really good. I'm excited. I think this might turn into like a weekly conversation. So I think it's
Awesome.
really good. Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Anna, for informing us about so many wonderful things. And I think we'll delve into the emotional stuff maybe a little more next time too. And I can chime in with some of that because that's what I do is heal emotional trauma. So awesome.
Right. Bringing all this together is what it is about. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day, everybody.